This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za. Power Talk with Lukhona Mnguni. Weekdays 9 a.m. to noon on Power 98.7.
Mr. Zungula, good morning.
Morning, Lukhona, and morning to all of the listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Power Talk. I think let's start with the day that is, Youth Day, Soweto Uprising, June 16. I mean, we can contest the meanings, but we know this day and its significance. How does the African Transformation Movement relate to this day, and particularly, to the political thought that drove this day, that being Black consciousness?
Lukhona, as much as history is important, I think it is very important that we speak to the current realities.
Yeah.
We can have as many sessions, talk about where we come from, etc. But if the majority of young people, 74.7%, are unemployed, majority of the country's youth is despondent because of those realities, then it becomes a painful reality or a painful reminder that what the students or the young people of 1976 were fighting for, we have not realized anything. We are not in a space whereby we could boldly say our actions now, their actions rather, have led to something meaningful, something we as the current generation we could be proud of. So I think this, for us as the ATM, it's a call to say, in order to properly acknowledge the strides that have been made by the youth of 1976, we need to make sure that the current youth of today, is able to live a decent life so that we can be proud to say the youth of 1976, yes, indeed, they did have victories in all of their fights.
Now, Vuyolwethu, for the youth of today to live a decent life, meaningful life, and be part of, productive work, as you cite those unemployment figures, how does the ATM become that promise to the youth of today, but just to South Africans broadly? And just tell us, what is the ideological orientation of ATM, if any?
What is important for us as the ATM is that the priority for the government must be to get all South Africans to be economically active. And the manner in which we should do that is that we need a government that is in power, not a ruling party that is just in office and is unable to influence or direct the policies of the country using legislation. We are a country whereby we are just consumers. Majority of even the basic goods are not even produced in our country. You find that South Africans are being sidelined from many sectors of the economy. You find that young people are deliberately being sidelined from work opportunities by having requirements such as experience in the private sector, as well as private sector dictating that young people, especially Black people, must have their own cars, and in that case, they will be sidelined. For us, what becomes important is that the economy must be transformed, must be opened up to have more players. There must be a particular focus on SMEs, because it has been proven all over the world that they are the biggest creators of employment. The reality in our country is that more than 70% of the trillion rand government budget goes to big businesses, and that creates this problem that we have current in our country, whereby the economy is not structured in a way that benefits majority of the citizens. The other area that we need to have a look at, it is the neglected economy, meaning the informal economy.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the informal economy, it is a part of the economy whereby majority of the people who are trading in that sector are trading for survival. And this is an economy that produces or contributes more than 400 billion rand into the economy. But if you look at the realities where you could say the young people should not be competing with people coming from far parts of the world, that is an economy where we as the ATM are saying it must be that the most basic level of the economy, at least that space, let it be a space dominated by South Africans, because this is a space whereby it could be set aside to give young people an opportunity to apply their skills. And we can learn from countries such as Rwanda, whereby such economies are used for young people to be innovative. That is why in this day and age in Rwanda, even the likes of transport to medicine in rural areas, it is done by drones, because these sectors allowed young people to be innovative there, learn their skills there, so that when they eventually upgrade themselves into the formal economy, they have a space whereby they've gained enough experience. So for us as a party, we're saying priority must be to ensure that citizens are economically active. It's not enough. In fact, for us as young people, it cannot be that our fate is on grants. Our fate is that we must continuously wait for handouts, whereas we have qualifications, we have the drive to work, but we have no opportunities because, number one, there is no government protection, in the sense that if you look at, for example, what happened with the chickens that we had in the past that were imported from Brazil and America, our chicken farmers, who are predominantly white, cried to say we are losing our businesses here because of these imports. However, if you look at the informal economy, there's never been any protection from the side of government to say our people, which is a predominantly black South African citizens, are not protected. Hence, we find that they've lost that space to non-South African citizens.
Now, Mr. Zungula, as we are building up to local government elections, we know that there are various bylaws that govern the informal economy. In some instances, they are not so favorable to participants in the informal economy. We've seen various municipal police, confiscating goods of people participating in the informal economy and being unable to account for those goods when the time comes for them to hand them back to those people they would have confiscated them from. As the ATM, what do you think the policy framework should be at a local government to unlock the informal economy and to ensure that it is thriving?
The starting point, Lukon, is to make sure that the current laws are implemented, in the sense that the laws are very clear to say if you are not a South African citizen, you must invest a minimum of 5 million rands, employ a certain number of South African citizens, pay taxes, etc. At the very least, that is what we should be all pushing towards, that let's first implement the current laws. The second thing that we as the ATM would try to, in fact, would enforce, it is to say we need to reopen the factories that we used to have, particularly in the small towns across the entire country. And the goods produced in those factories must be the goods that are by law enforced, that those are the goods that should be sold in the informal economy. In the sense that, for example, in the Eastern Cape, you've got a lady that is producing sanitary towels. There's no reason why the sanitary towels that you could find in the informal traders are sanitary towels that are produced outside of the country, whereas there's a locally produced product in which, when it is in the shelves of these local informal traders, it's going to create jobs. The same thing with Magwati, whereby it creates jobs in the area where it is produced, but because the informal economy is not used as a distribution point for the locally produced product. So for us as the ATM, the policy framework that we could change, we are going to change, it is to say all of the locally produced products, it must be a must that they must be in the shelves of all of these informal traders. We are learning from countries like Uganda with their Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy, where there's a certain number of basic goods where it is a must that these basic goods must be produced in their respective localities. Because once you've got those goods produced in those respective localities, jobs are created and the currency will rotate in that respective locality. Unlike now, whereby if you go to the outskirts of the country, places like Okwakwa, Ntabankulu, King, etc., we find that there's nothing that is produced there. They are just consumers of either goods produced outside of the country as well as in the big cities like Joburg, Durban and Cape Town. Therefore, the policy that we have as the ATM is to make sure that each and every district must have these basic goods that are going to be produced in those districts. And there is a demand in the sense that the basic goods, we know that people consume bread on a daily basis. They will buy soap on a daily basis. Now, the question would be, the current government, why is there no political will to open these factories and just substitute these foreign products or international products with locally produced products? That way, we have we as a country, in a way, we consume what we produce.
Now, Mr. Zungula, one of the issues that will help us unlock all these beautiful dreams is having the right skill set for the job, the right type of leadership. At local government, there's been a real problem where in some councils, if you look at studies done by Salga, for example, after the induction of councils, we get a sense, one municipality, for example, in KwaZulu-Natal, all councillors, not a single one had a post-matric qualification. Now, this is not to really speak bad of people who have not advanced in terms of their education, but it has implications in terms of how they understand the complexities of governance, how they interact with particular reports, say the Auditor General's report and various other policy regimes that have to be proposed and approved by council, and it could frustrate the process of policy formulation. As the ATM, you have emphasized a lot on this question of leadership. You even call yourselves servants. You don't call yourselves comrades. You call yourselves servants as an extension of servanthood from, the Christian movement that you were born out of. How important is the issue of leadership, and what mechanisms does the ATM have in place to ensure the selection of fit-for-purpose councillor candidates as we build up to the local government elections?
Leadership, it's the most important aspect in each and everything that happens in our country. I would boldly say we as a country, we lack leadership at a broader level. But to get to your question, what we ought to have in our country, especially at a local government level, it is to have people that are in love with the people of South Africa, not to have people that are there because they are career politicians or maybe they want salaries. I think it starts with the heart or the mind, because if you get the height right, there's nothing that can stop people, in the sense that even if a person is not educated, there's nothing that will stop him from upskilling himself in the period that they are in the council. At the same time, we know that in these councils, there are researchers that are employed there, whereby they could provide, for example, this expert knowledge that requires, to a certain extent, a certain level of education or expertise. However, you find that regardless of the support that is provided by the researchers or the bureaucrats in any municipality, if you do not have the leaders with the right mind, which is the mind of improving the lives of the people, mind of actually transforming the country instead of just entering into the political space just to continue the current trends that we've had. And as the ATM, we identified this is a major problem. That is why our ideological orientation, we said we are servants of the people. This is not to be limited or confined to a Christian perspective, but it is a people's understanding that when you are a public official, you are a servant of the people. Therefore, it becomes important that you orientate the members. It was important for us to orientate ourselves and to entrench to ourselves that before anything, we are servants of the people who exist to improve the lives of the people. That is why, for us, we think that with the right set of leadership, with the right heart, and with the right vision for the country, we could see wonders. It does not take much to actually change our country. The only thing that is required, it is bold leadership that is not afraid to take unpopular decisions, leadership that is not afraid to use the law. One thing that we can learn from the apartheid government is that it was never afraid to use the law to enforce whatever incorrect ideology they had. But you find that currently in our country, the current government is afraid to use the law to implement its political ideas. That is why for us it becomes important that the leadership that we ought to have must translate into laws that are put in place to implement political ideas, and the respective law enforcement agencies must be trained in order for them to understand what those laws are and how they can assist in terms of ensuring that those laws are implemented and enforced.
My guest is ATM President, African Transformation Movement, Vuyolwethu Zungula. If you want to be part of this conversation, please give us a dial on 0861 987 000. I do already see some of your questions on Twitter. I will put them to my guest. Mr. Zungula, that sounds all good and well, perfectly fine. What screening methods are you putting on the ground in terms of selection of your councillor candidates to actually make sure that it's people who can infuse this ethos you speak of in the various municipal councils that they might be elected into?
For us, what is important is that each and every councillor must be a councillor that has got the widespread support of the people. So our screening process is to make sure that in the respective wards, we've got different constituencies. For example, in the rural areas, you'll have traditional leadership. In other areas, you are going to be having youth movement, women movements. We are going to have religious leadership, the business sector. Therefore, for us, it is to make sure that whoever that emanates as a councillor candidate from the ATM has got the support from these constituencies, in order to make sure that when they get into office, when they get into power, they are able to serve the respective constituencies that they come from. And that is for us what is important. We do not want to be in a space whereby we impose councillors or we impose people, but people, the councillors, must be having support from the people.
Viola, just give us a picture. What is your ambition for these upcoming local government elections? Where are you most likely to field candidates? It does seem you are quite strong in some areas such as Enyandeni in the Eastern Cape, where you see some incremental growth on some of the by-elections that have been held there. But where are you most likely to contest elections?
We are intending to contest all municipalities. Like you said, there are areas in the country whereby we've got a much bigger support than the other areas. For example, in Limpopo, in the Waterberg region, as well as the Capricorn region, we've got widespread support there. You go to the place that you've mentioned in OR Tambo, as well as Amatol, we've also got widespread support. But it is our intention to contest all municipalities. Okay,
and as you think of that, do you have enough structures and presence on the ground, or are you still trying to cultivate these?
At a broader level, in all regions, we do have regional structures who are, as we speak, finalizing the processes of concluding on the councillor candidates.
Yeah.
So that is the work that we've been doing from 2019 after we got into Parliament up until now. We've managed to make sure that all over the country, let us have structures. It's just a question whereby in some areas, naturally, we're going to have more ground support than the other areas, but the presence is that we've got presence in all municipalities.
Okay, please stay on the line for me. 0861 987 000 is the line to dial if you want to be in conversation with the President of the African Transformation Movement, Vuyolwethu Zungula. Thomas White is ready with Power News headlines.
Power Talk with Lukhona Mnguni. Weekdays 9 a.m. to noon on Power 98.7.
Well, indeed, and I'm in conversation with the President of the African Transformation Movement, Vuyolwethu Zungula. The nice thing is that I believe he's still youth and leading a movement, so that's quite a fascinating point on this Youth Day. The line to dial is 0861 987 000 to be part of our conversation. We are building up to the local government elections. Of course, we do not know where COVID-19 is going to put us, but that doesn't stop us on the job at hand. And so on On Wednesdays between 10 and 11, we talk to leaders of political parties across the political spectrum, just to make sure that we are starting to get a sense. And of course, they can't come to you door to door. They can't hold large gatherings. So how much more easier should we do it to try and interface between yourselves as citizens and the leaders? So, Vuyolwethu, let me just put another question to you, something that is of interest, particularly given where our country is in terms of discussing immigration policies. You seem to be quite close to put South Africa first. What are the ATM's views on immigration policy, and what is it that builds a close relationship between ATM and put South Africa first?
What is important now is that the immigration policy that is there, the immigration laws that are there, the only thing that is required, it is for those policies to be implemented, to be enforced. Now, it is something that is a reality that there are people are benefiting from, for example, the lawlessness that comes with porous borders, etc. That is why they've labeled Put South Africa First as something that is xenophobic. However, the reality is that the laws are clear in terms of stating how should a person move from one country to another. Therefore, when South Africans are saying there are clear laws that regulate how a person should move from Europe to South Africa, and when they are here, if they are coming on a study visa, what must happen for them to actually get a work visa. So for us as a party, we are saying that we are a law-abiding organization. We believe that the rule of law is very important. And we also believe that laws must be equally enforced and respected. It can't be that other laws are made to be superior than the others. Therefore, on the question of immigration, when people are coming to South Africa, it is very important that the government must know who they are, where they are going to stay in our country, what are in the country for, in order to protect the citizens of the country. One can imagine last year where an immigrant coming from another country killed 6 people in our country, and they were caught just as they are about to leave. And because they were illegal in the country, they could not be traced, etc. Therefore, it can't be that in a country whereby we've got 58 people murdered on a daily basis, we've got such a huge number of people who are undocumented or unknown, and we think that it's not going to compound the problems of crime that we have in the country. What is also worrisome is that right next door in Mozambique, there are terrorists there that have held a province under hostage. That is why some areas in Mozambique are a no-go area for even the Mozambican government. Now, the problem that is now facing South Africa is that what should happen should those terrorists move south and move towards South Africa. And when they are here in the country, they are not likely to go and bomb the human union buildings or parliament, but they are going to go to the villages, to the townships, and hurt people who should be protected by the government. Therefore, for us, we are saying that the law is the law and all must be equal before the law, whether they are white or black, South African or not South African.
Okay, let me please go to the line. Just hold on for me. I see I've got some guests here on 0861 987 000. Basande, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Luko?
I'm well. How are you this morning?
No, thank you very much, and I thank the opportunity from the PowerFM and the listeners.
Thank you, bro.
Luko, I just want to make a comment. Firstly, I think it's important for us to note this fundamental fact that Vuyolwethu Zungula nguye kuphela presidential candidate South Africa ongumuntu omtsha in the history of South Africa. I think that is quite profound. I think the youth of South Africa should be proud that such a time has come, and they should take advantage of it. But my comment, and it's something that I would like the president of ATM to comment on.
Basande, I think he was the second. I think Julius would take exception there that in 2014 he was also youth.
Well, we can debate about that some other time.
He was 33. It's not a debate.
How old is Vuyo?
Well,
maybe you need to ask.
No, I'm saying that he's the second. Yes, but we are in agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're in agreement. Yes. So the statistics have been given out, And I managed to get a brief chat with the Secretary General of the ATM Youth League. And he was telling me that the ATM Youth League is calling for the reduction of the pensioning age by 5 years, and that they hope that this will open up positions that can be taken up by young people in a way of combating the high unemployment among young people. And I was saying that this is a great idea because, in my view, the high level of unemployment among graduates means that a lot of graduates that obtain their degrees through the student financial aid are now unable to pay back that debt, and therefore a lot of students who are supposed to be now benefiting from the scheme are unable to. So giving jobs to young people also ensures that more young people have access to education.
Basande.
And I would like maybe the president to also maybe just tell us what he thinks about that.
Okay, Basande, thank you very much for joining us on 0861 987 000. Let's go to Begi. Good morning.
Morning, Lukhona. Morning, Vuyolwethu. Just a quick question from where the last caller left off. What's the proposed retirement age from ATM?
Okay.
What's the proposed retirement age from ATM? Because the last caller was saying that ATM.
He was saying the SG has asked that it be slashed by 5 years.
So to what? 55 or 60?
Okay, I'll put that to my guest. Do you have another question, Begi?
Yeah, no. It's a comment, Lukhona.
Okay.
You know, we do need new organizations, that will move South Africa forward. The ANC has failed dismally, in my view. The high unemployment and also the deprivation, of people who look like you and me, the poverty that we see. They don't actually take the issues that we face every day and tackle them with a sense of agency. They don't have it. Okay. So we need people like ATM, but quickly, Lukhona. The problem with that I have with ATM is that the power of association is very important. They are associated with one character called Jimmy Manyi. They must disassociate themselves with him because Jimmy Manyi, is associated with the Guptas.
Okay, I'll put that as well to the president of ATM. Castro, good morning.
Good morning, Lukhona. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. It's Castro Ramarutsi from the West Rand.
Yes, buddy.
Yes. Also, good morning to 7th President Zungula. And I appreciate that you're addressing us on the Youth Day, the youngest president of the growing movement.
Yes.
My issue is around the capacity of councillors.
Yeah.
I think it was spot on that councillors need to be capacitated and have capacity to deal with the legislation, because local government is legislated. It's not just an institution that is standing alone there.
Yeah.
It's legislated. And you find a situation in councils. A councillor which does not have capacity will come to a council meeting with the same agenda envelope that is sealed without even reading it. When it gets to the council meeting, that will be the first time that council will be opening that envelope, which becomes a problem of what time did the councillor and effort that councillor took to go through the items that are going to be presented in council.
Okay.
So those are including the issues of capacity.
Castro,
the other issue.
Quickly, please, so that I go to others on the line.
Okay, yes. The other issue is the recycling of corrupt officials in local government. An official will be charged in one municipality, then he'll be taken to another province and be deployed there and be given another senior position, whilst the case is still pending in the municipality where he was coming from. So I think those issues around the Systems Act needs to be amended so that if an official is senior, municipal manager or managers accountable to the municipal manager.
Okay, Castro, I've got you loud and clear. Thank you, and I'm sure Vuyolwethu has gotten that as well. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, thanks. Interesting to hear the values that were espoused by the President. Good morning, President. I just want to make a few comments about those values that I hear.
Shoot to it, Paul.
If there is a manifesto, they need to put it out. They need to telegraph their message, and they need to make a greater impact on the voters by sticking to the core values instead of going to the minutiae. And if the President needs any help, I'm happy to help him with his messaging.
Okay.
Thank
Paul
you.
availing himself there as a volunteer. Silo, good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Morning to you, all the listeners, and thereby in the station Power FM.
Thank you. Go for it, buddy.
Morning to President Vuyolwethu Zungula. I'm on the point of saying, because my contribution here is about the economy. We have a problem in our country. I've been saying a lot of things about me being outside in Botswana and how they are doing things that side. Yeah. For example, they are putting their citizens first. So I think it's time we South Africans, because we have a lot of political parties. So we have to align ourselves with parties, political parties that are standing and voicing out for us as citizens. It's our time now. We're going to local elections. So in a ballot box, we have to choose parties that are standing for South African youth and citizens in general. So this time, we have to stand with the ATM. Reason is this one. I like their policy. ATM is the party that is talking solutions to our people. Because first of all, on foreign nationals, it's not like we hate our African brothers. No. But in their countries, for example, I said in Botswana, when you go to Botswana, they want you to have a passport. You can't go there illegally. They will be telling you, right, so how leha, how say radio there, you must go back to Africa. So I ask myself, same goes to Zimbabwe. I've been to Zimbabwe and other countries. So I ask myself, here in our country, a person will come and sell tomatoes on the street coming from Nigeria, Lagos. I mean, come on, doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But
Silo,
yes.
I hear you. I need to give Michael so that my guest can respond without running out of time. Michael, good morning.
Ndiyabulela ngelithuba lukhona ondibabale ngalo ndifuna ukuba ndihlabe imibuzo apha kulo mhlekazi lo
vuya thina gawulo warhuqa
mhlekazi Zungula namhlanje xa ndivuka ekseni ndive indaba ukuba ilungu eliphezulu lombutho wakho lithabathe uxanduvo lokuba sisithethi so sika Jacob Zuma wayengumongameli welizwe mna ndikholela ukuba wangcatshela ilizweli futhi esisikoko abantu abaninzi abanaso ngawe nombutho wakho okuba nesixhobo esisetyenziswa nguJacob Zuma okuba nimfamekisa abantu belizwe ukuze yena azigcine ngaphandle kumasango entolongo uthini ngeso sitsholo nisenze apha kuwe ngoba ndiyakholela ukuba sinjalo.
Okay, Michael, siyabulela. Zungula, I think let's start with that last one because even on social media it keeps coming through on my timeline. Last night news came out that the Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma Foundation had appointed your head of policy, Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, to be the sole spokesperson on behalf of the foundation and the former president on this particular issue of the corruption trial relating to the arms deal. As the ATM, what is your view on that? Are you creating a separation between Mzwanele Manyi, the professional, and Mzwanele Manyi, the head of policy at ATM? Or is this something that you are going to look into because it might harm your brand as an organization?
Each and every citizen in our country is free to provide whatever professional services to whoever they deem fit. It happens where in the local municipality, one person is a member of another party, but they are lawyers or accountants or even doctors of members of other parties. Therefore, it is the same thing with Ubaba Mzwanele Manyi. He's free as a professional. Remember, he used to work at GCIS. Therefore, with the relationship and the working arrangement that he had with the former president, in my view, maybe those would be the reasons why the former president would say, this is a person who could handle my communications relating to the foundation as well as his respective court cases. It is the same thing where we have a leader of another party who is providing legal advice to the former president. However, we don't hear people accusing that leader of that party or the most senior member in that party of being a member or being in a way mired with the former president. What we also want to stress is that what we've said ever since we became a political party is that we as a party were formed by mostly religious organizations who joined with community organizations. We're a product of the people. We are not a product of any person. Our interest, it is to transform South Africa and serve South Africans. We do not have any interest to serve particular individuals. Our mandate, it is to serve the people of South Africa. One person can look at all of our articulations, all of our work in Parliament from the day we entered Parliament up until now. One person can say we've stuck to our mandate.
But Zungula, perception is king. And I mean, that move by Advocate Dalimpofu has not gone without criticism either. In fact, putting to question the very tea that they had with the president of the EFF, with the former president Jacob Zuma. So I think whilst you may say there is that reality of legal representation, it doesn't take away from the possible perception issue that could injure the standing of your party, particularly given the rumors that were circulating within the ANC, where they even tried to attempt, investigating how you were formed and whether their SG and other people were party to your formation.
That is one thing whereby the ANC itself had a commission of inquiry to look into these allegations. And Fringe Nwala came out to say the former president is no way involved with the ATM. The Secretary General of the ANC is no way involved in the ATM. Therefore, the perception that is there, it is a deliberate perception to harm the brand of the ATM, because you can't use, for example, corruption as something that you are going to use to harm ATM, because we've never been part of these governance structures. We do not have anything linking us to corruption. If you check all across the country, there will always be perceptions that are created deliberately to harm the brands of each and every party. Even if a party can be formed tomorrow, the people or the powers that be or the media will always try, for example, to use something in order to injure or harm the brand. So as the ATM, we're not different. It is something that comes with the space that we're in, the political space that is toxic, whereby even people in the media, they will speak a lot about the allegations, but they will not say anything about the Ginwala Commission that cleared up. Therefore, that makes it clear that one of the biggest problems, again, in the country, it is media practitioners who aren't objective and who are selective as well in distributing propaganda.
Well, let's go to the other questions. Let's leave that one. Castro talking about capacity of councillors and the question around the proposed retirement age coming up a bit.
The capacitating of councillors, it is very critical. As we said, that when you've got people with the right heart and the right mind for the people of South Africa, then capacitation is something that should happen. I'll speak for myself that when I got to Parliament in 2019, I made sure I'm going to continue with my studies. As I speak, I'm a master's candidate as well, because I understand the value that comes with education, as well as upskilling myself in order to be well informed with the responsibilities I'm entrusted in with. Therefore, that is the culture of ATM, whereby all of our councillors will be capacitated in order for them to be able to best deliver services to the people of our country. The issue of the retirement age, it is something that should be discussed as well. And it needs to be broad. There needs to be a thorough discussion, not limited to people outside the political spaces, because one of the cries we've heard is that you're going to have ministers who are at the ages of 80, but they will want people to retire at the ages of 65, etc.
And what is the figure you are proposing, perhaps, in terms of age? Because I know this instrument has been used. I mean, in France, they sort of take it up and down as the time and the economic conditions prevail. But what age are you proposing as retirement age in South Africa?
The proposal we've received, it is the age of 60, which is the normal retirement, and 55 for early retirement.
Okay, and then we have, Sillo there talking about in Botswana how they put citizens first and what ATM will be doing, and Paul talking about the need to expand on the core values of ATM.
Indeed, if you look on about the state of our country, where 43% of our population is unemployed. We've got more than 55% of our population living in poverty, meaning living below 1,000 rands per month. Therefore, the talk to say prioritize South African citizens, it is something whereby each and every person should understand that when you are in a tight corner as a country, the first people that you need to look out for, it is your own citizens, because there's only one country whereby South Africans can be prioritized in the economy, in jobs, etc. It is only South Africa. You can't have a South African going to China, going to Pakistan, or going to England, wanting to be prioritized there. And if you look at the nature, and the biggest problem that we have is that companies are deliberately employing illegal non-South African citizens in order to exploit them. And that creates this discord or this conflict that we see on a daily basis. Because if South Africans are not employed, and these companies, the private sector, because they're greedy, they're employing illegal immigrants, then you are going to have conflict. That is why it is critical that the government enforces its laws, and the companies that are breaking these laws must be severely punished. The managers must be arrested in accordance to the law. So basically what we are calling for as the ATM is nothing new. It is nothing that is not done in other countries. Rather, we are calling for something that should have been done ages ago, because in each and every sector in our country, there must be the dominant employees or the dominant players in each and every sector must be Black South Africans, because they are the majority in our country. That is what we are calling for.
Vuyolwethu, I know I'm squeezing you and you are on the road, but Mr. Sirius on Twitter is saying, please ask your guest there, is it possible to send a list of companies that employ undocumented foreign nationals so they can start to act, not to wait for election time? Park that question. Godfrey, quickly, let me squeeze you in before an ad break and I get Mr. Zungula to respond.
Hi, Lukona, just quickly, man. I think it's very much problematic to have leaders who, get elected and ultimately start talking like normally as ourselves. That gentleman is in Parliament. There are a number of government departments today that are having, foreign people, not necessarily with rare skills, who are working in the departments, but you hardly hear them raising such issues and pointing out the Department of Trade and Industry or the Department of Health. You have so many people from outside with the skills that we have in the country. So,
okay.
Those kind of things are very worrying, and that has to change. Cape Town is also having a problem, but you hardly hear them standing up and talking about the challenges that Cape Town is trying to address in terms of foreign issues.
Godfrey,
why can't they do that?
Thank you very much. Let me go to a quick ad break. Mr. Zungula, I'm out of time, but please just touch base on that point quickly in 30 seconds. The questions raised.
In Parliament, we've pushed the President. That is why we've been articulating this issue ever since we got into Parliament, to an extent whereby an interministerial committee was set up by the President to look into this issue, because it is something that we've said. We've made sure that the ministers, all and the Labour, Home Affairs, and Small Business, we've communicated with them. We've put pressure on them. So we are not speaking as if we are not doing anything.
Lastly, can people send you a list of companies that are breaking the law?
Yes. Our details are on Twitter, on Facebook.
Okay.
Our WhatsApp line is 073-387-4934. They can send them there.
Okay. Mr. Zungula, thank you so much this morning.
Thank you.
African Transformation Movement President Vuyolwethu Zungula. That conversation comes to an end. Thomas White, take us away with the news.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.